This moment became sacred ink in the Jesus diary, my diary. Today was not a loud day. It did not shake the earth or part the sky, but something inside me cracked. It wasn't pain that screamed. It was something softer, something sacred, the quiet ache of knowing what is coming and still walking toward it. I saw him before he spoke. He looked into my eyes, bold and sincere. "I would never let you fall," he said. "Even if they all run, I will stay." Peter's words were a flame, warm, fierce, but fire does not always mean light. Sometimes it blinds you. And I looked at him, not with anger, not with fear, but with a weight that only love understands. Because I knew, before I fell, before the world pushed me down, his words would be what shattered me first. Not because they were false, but because they were fragile. Because they came from a heart that loved me, but not yet enough to follow me into the dark. It's a strange thing to be loved by someone who will soon forget you, and stranger still, to love them anyway. That is what this day was. The day I heard loyalty speak and watched fear prepare its answer. And I wrote it down, not to remember the wound, but to remember the love that stayed even after it broke. If these words stirred your heart, if you've ever promised and then pulled away, touch this message with a like. Not for me, but as your silent way of saying, "I still hear you." The air was still but not empty. It carried the scent of olive trees and dust, earth clinging to the robes of men who had walked far but understood little. The sun had faded, but its warmth lingered on the stones. Shadows stretched long across the courtyard, and with them, my thoughts. Inside me, the weight of what was coming pressed like a quiet tide. No crashing wave, just a slow, steady rise, as if sorrow itself was filling my lungs. Around me, they laughed. The disciples spoke in hushed tones, unaware of the storm beneath their feet. Their hands were stained with bread and wine. Their eyes were tired, and still, Peter stood tall. He always did. His presence was fire, not the dangerous kind, but the kind that wants to protect, burning bright with good intentions. He looked at me, full of conviction, and I could feel his love. Strong, loud, certain, and fragile. That was the word that wrapped itself around my heart. Fragile. Because I knew what the night would ask of him, and I knew what it would cost. There was no wind, no thunder, just the slow unraveling of loyalty, like thread pulled silently from a garment. No one noticed, but I did. The night was gentle on the outside and unbearable within. The weight of unspoken prophecy settled in my chest like stone. Not anger, not even fear, just the ache of knowing a heart that would soon break its promise, and the deeper ache of loving that heart anyway. That was the world around me. A quiet room, a loyal friend, and a love about to be tested by shadows. He was there, right in front of me, but the world didn't see him. Not truly. They saw a fisherman, a voice too quick, a heart too proud, a man too flawed to matter. But I saw deeper. I saw Peter, the one who walked on water when faith outweighed fear. The one who saw my glory, then fell asleep in my sorrow. The one who loved loudly and would soon fall quietly. And as he stood before me that night, chest full of promise, eyes burning with certainty, I saw not only what he was, but what he would become. I saw the roar, and I saw the silence. I saw the moment the fire in his heart would flicker into a whisper. "I will never let you fall," he said. But I would, and not because he wanted to, because the night would ask of him more than his courage could carry. And I felt it, this ache that didn't belong to flesh but to spirit, a conflict not of man against man, but of love against survival, of loyalty tangled in fear. Peter didn't know he was already standing in his own trial. It had begun long before the rooster. It began the moment he said, "I will not fail you," because love that is sure of itself has not yet been tested. And I knew the test was coming. I didn't correct him. I didn't shame him. I simply looked at him and loved him. That was the conflict inside me, to carry a heart that would break mine and hold it with tenderness anyway. Not because it would succeed, but because it would return. I stepped closer. The wind stopped. His eyes, those same eyes that once saw me walk on water, closed just for a second. not in rest, but in retreat, as if something in his soul trembled, not with fear, but with foreknowledge, as if something ancient whispered, "These words will not stand." Peter looked at me with boldness, his voice strong, his chest full of certainty. "Even if all others fall away, I never will." And that shattered me, not because I believed him, but because I wanted to, because even in my divine knowing, there is a place in me that still aches with hope. Hope that just once one vow might hold. One friend might stay. One soul might be unshakable. But I knew better. I saw the fear beneath the flame. I saw the tremor beneath his truth. I saw the coming night and what it would do to him. And I didn't stop him, because love does not stop what it sees will fail. It listens. Love does not harden at the edge of disappointment. It softens. It stays. It waits. And that night I waited, not for the denial, but for the return. Because what shattered me wasn't his failure. It was the purity of his intention, knowing it would still collapse. It was the sound of devotion spoken with a shaking voice. It was watching a man try to carry a cross made of his own words and fall beneath it before the wood ever touched my back. I felt the weight of it, not as a distant god immune to heartbreak, but as a man whose heart had flesh and blood and memory. I carried the sound of his voice into the silence of the garden. Those words echoed louder than the swords that would come. Even if all fall away, he meant it. That's what made it beautiful. That's what made it hurt. Because love is not destroyed by lies. It's wounded by broken promises made with sincerity. And that was the moment. Not the fall, not the arrest, not the nails or the crown. That, hearing someone I love speak with a heart full of fire, knowing the night would smother it. That was my first crack. The place where the pain began, not on the cross, but in the conversation. And still, I let it happen. Still, I held it with my eyes. Because sometimes love doesn't correct, it absorbs. Sometimes love doesn't interrupt, it remembers. And something shifted in me that night. Not my mission, but my understanding. I began to see that salvation wouldn't come only through pierced hands, but through broken words. Through promises that fall apart under pressure. Through hearts that collapse in fear and still long to be held again. That's when I knew I would fall. But this was the first wound. Not given by an enemy, but by a friend. And I carried it willingly. Because if Peter could fall and return, then so could you. So could anyone. If you've ever spoken too soon, promised more than you could carry, or loved God from a place of fear, know this. You are not disqualified. You are not forgotten. Your failure is not the end. It's the page before redemption begins. Subscribe, not just to this channel, but to the grace that stays even when you fall. Grace that watches, waits, and whispers, "I'm still here." And on this day, I learned something not written in the scrolls. I learned that love doesn't ask for perfection. It just asks to be trusted enough to stay. Peter didn't know he was fragile. He thought his passion could carry him through the night. But passion burns quickly, and fear is a slow wind that blows even the brightest flame into smoke. Yet what he said, what shattered me, wasn't the promise itself. It was that it came from a place of love. And even love can fall. Even love can shake when the darkness gets too close. And in that moment, I understood something deeper. Love is not about never falling. It's about rising again, even after the fall. I realized then that I wasn't here to be loved flawlessly. I was here to be loved honestly. Even if that honesty comes through brokenness. Even if it comes through tears and regret. Even if it takes a denial to lead to a return. And I understood my Father more fully. His mercy isn't a reward for the righteous. It's a refuge for the wounded. So I did not write Peter's words down to accuse him. I wrote them to remind myself, and you, that sometimes the ones who fall hardest are the ones who rise with the most fire. Because when love survives the fall, it becomes something unbreakable. That is the lesson I carry tonight. Not that he failed, but that I will wait on the other side of that failure, ready to restore him, and maybe ready to restore you too. Today, I was not betrayed. I was reminded that even the strongest hearts can tremble and even trembling hearts can love deeply. Peter's voice still lingers in my chest, not as a wound, but as a whisper. His words shattered something in me, yes, but they also revealed something holy. They revealed that love doesn't always roar. Sometimes it breaks, and still it is love. Today, I did not save a soul. A soul saved me from forgetting why I came. I came not for the flawless. I came for the impulsive, for the ones who mean well and still fall, for the ones who say, I will never leave you, and then do, but come back anyway. That is the kind of love that reshapes heaven. Not loud, not proud, but broken and brave enough to return. So I end this page with a question, not for Peter, for you. If your heart stood beside mine tonight, what would you say? Would you make a promise? Or would you finally just be real? Because I'm not waiting for perfect words. I'm waiting for honest ones. Tell me, I'm still listening. I said nothing. I just let that moment become a word in my Jesus diary. If this page from my diary touched something inside you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it, not to grow numbers, but to heal someone's silence. Someone close to you might be where Peter was, torn, trembling, ready to return, but afraid they won't be welcomed. Let this be the light they need. Let this story reach them like a whisper from heaven. And before you leave, there's another moment waiting for you. The next page is already unfolding. Watch the video appearing on your screen now. Let's speak where words have failed. Let it remind you, I am still writing. And you're still part of the story.